back to Equal Time Soccer. We're here to talk a little bit of NSIC, but a lot of other things too, because we have a great guest, the head coach of Moorhead State Dragons, Christie. I should have asked you before. Is it Kopietz?
It's Kopietz.
Kopietz. I mean, look, that's yeah. You used to have an easier, a more phonetic name.
Yes, much easier.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. I mean, we're going to talk about Moorhead, obviously, but I wanted to. You have, I mean, somewhat of a unique path to Fargo Moorhead, coming from Almonte, Ontario, area code 613. So shout out. I had the Wikipedia at Christie. There's 4 people from that town as notable residents, and you must know at least one.
Dr. James Naismith would be the one that I know.
Okay. Yeah, that's where Naismith is from. So I know you have the Naismith basketball tournament. The other 3 are really funny though. Like there's Noreen Young, who is a puppeteer on Sesame Park, which is like the Canadian Sesame Street.
Yep.
And then a skier, not Perry and Jones. And
I actually ran track with her, so I do know.
So this was not for naught. That was a good dig. That's amazing. That's wow. What did she run, and what did you run?
I ran the 400, 800, and 1500, and she was amazing. And she ran the similar races. She was a little bit younger than me, but we ran the 4x4 together once. So
nice.
We went because she was in it because she is so fast.
Okay, with the Olympian. Well, I mean, look, maybe they should tack you on as number 5. We'll get the attention on it. I also saw. I just have to ask you this because I saw there's a whole website devoted to highlighting all like the kind of Lifetime style Christmas movies that are made there. Mm-hmm. Have you? It is so many. It is dozens and dozens of these movies. So I don't know. I just wondered if you knew that, or if you had like family trying to get as extras in the background of all this stuff.
I didn't know that, but it is a super beautiful town, and it's right on the water, so it doesn't surprise me because I know a lot of stuff's filmed in Canada because it's slightly cheaper. But that's pretty entertaining.
If the website is clearly like the town itself is marketing that it's filmed there, and yeah, it was I did not expect that, but so, and I also have to mention, I mean, last year was a very good year for you as a Canadian soccer player because the Canadian women won. And did you get to, I mean, as a parent, did you get to watch any of those games? Because they were really funky times.
My wife is a really diehard soccer person, so she would get up at all hours to watch them. I'm not quite as diehard as her, so sometimes we'd watch them after they'd been happening and try not to pay attention to social media.
Yeah, it was a well-earned gold, and like everybody, of course, was happy for St. Clair to get that. That was awesome.
Sure.
Cool. It was tough. I woke up for every one of the U.S. women's games, and it was not a good tournament to be doing that. It was we struggled. It was so I would be waking up, and it was all punishment on that tournament. Yeah.
At least you're committed, though.
It was. I mean, it felt like watching the U.S. men. Honestly, I'm not used to seeing the women stumble. I love the U.S. men, but yeah. And I just have to ask. So I said Almonte, Ontario. It's very close to Ottawa, right? So you're yep. kind of a big city. Canadian, but how did you end up, which I have to say, because you ended up in Crookston, and that's a very small town. It somehow is smaller than the population implies. I went to college in Morris, which is a lot like Crookston. And so how did you hear about Crookston? How did you end up there?
It's kind of a random story. So I grew up always wanting to play college soccer. I went to a soccer camp, and there was a collegiate female there as part of the staff. And I saw her, and I was like, I want to be that girl, or that woman. And I decided to invest in my soccer, career. And so I started playing in Gloucester, which is a suburb of Ottawa. And one of my teammates there actually went to Crookston the year prior to me and talked to me about playing there. And then I went on a visit, and I just absolutely fell in love with the coach because he is just one of the best humans. And it just was really lucky that I happened to be on that team with her, and then, followed up with a visit. So that's how I ended up there.
And did she just end up there by like a letter being sent, or like she met a coach at a camp, like or something like that?
I don't really know. I don't know her that didn't know her that well. She just
Uh,
was like, "Oh, I go here. You should,
uh,
start talking to this coach." And then like the coaches just was just so I can't think of the right word. It's eluding me right now, but just wants you to. He just sucks you in right away.
uh,
And I still talk to him. He moved to the East Coast, but the second I started talking to him, I kind of knew I liked his vibe.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, I mean, I also I have some college credits from Crookston that I got. We were actually Crookston students the same time. I was in high school and I was taking a US history class. So go Eagles. I mean, of course, of course. So I want to know if you remember how many goals you scored at Crookston because you're the all-time leading scorer.
Yeah, I think it's 20 something, but I don't know the exact number.
Don't know. Yeah, I mean, I always wonder that about strikers because I don't have any goals to remember it, maybe two. So you scored 25 and then you had 62 points. So you were clearly, you were hitting an assist too. And I love this about a small college, which is I don't know if you played a lot of tennis growing up, but you also played tennis, right?
Really badly, but yes, I did.
Yeah, I'm 0-2. I played college tennis because the coach at Morris was just the assistant basketball coach, and the people that would end up on the team. Yeah, it was like kind of. But did you play growing up, and you just were like, cool? There's no spring soccer.
My mom played, so I played just rally tennis with her, nothing serious. But they
Uh,
started the program when I was at Crookston. They basically just needed people for that season to fill the roster. And I
uh,
was like, well, I'm kind of bored. I'm done with soccer now. Like, let's try
yeah,
something else. So it was so fun, totally different than being really trying to be more of like a competitive athlete at soccer.
right,
But, it was really fun to learn.
right.
And
Well,
yeah.
like the pressure is off because like you've been so driven about soccer, but tennis you're like, well, cool. It's kind of just for fun, and yeah, like it doesn't matter if you win, even yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
fun.
was trying hard to win. I just I didn't have a skill set for it. I can cover ground, but I can't serve very well, so that pretty much shoots you in the foot right away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There were some. I mean, and also there can be some crazy wind days. Like some of the days that we played in Morris, I wasn't skilled enough, but guys could be hitting the ball so crazy. Like they'd be warming up, like look, and I can hit it sideways and it'll go. Like
Yep.
the wind on the prairie is real. Yeah, very real. And then your first experience coaching, you did at Crookston, which isn't kind of like probably the smoothest, way you can do it. It's a coach like you already respected. And how did that come about? And was it just, did you have to work kind of like a side job or were you finishing classes while you did it? How did that start?
Yeah, I was finishing up my undergrad, so it took me 4.5 to finish because I ended up changing majors while I was there. I guess I just still wanted to be part of the game and didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with my life. So I was like, well, I'll try, coaching and being on the sideline. And let me tell you, coaching is not at all the same as playing. And I learned that right away. And I actually also had to coach my former teammates, which was so difficult
Well,
because,
yeah.
yeah.
I was going to ask because I mean, the context of knowing the program and knowing the coach is very good. But I was going to ask about that because then you need to, whether it's just giving input to the coach like behind the scenes, that's probably easier, but if you have to you have to critique them within training, I'm sure that was a learning experience.
Yes, and there was one time on the sideline where I disagreed with my former coach, and he
uh,
had to talk to me about it after, and I was like, "Okay, I understand now." But in the heat of the moment, I really wanted him to make this change, and
right.
we had to have that conversation.
So you just did that for a year, right? And then or how
just
long
just a semester actually, and then
semester?
I went overseas and played for a little bit after that.
Oh, that's so cool. Where did you play?
I played in Switzerland.
Uh-huh. That's
Yeah.
awesome. How was your experience? How was that experience for you? How long did you stay?
I was there from like mid-February through beginning of June.
Hmm.
Women's soccer at that time is, at least where I was playing, was supremely secondary to the men's team. So,
Yeah.
there was two teams there, and it was very obvious that we were not very important.
Mhm.
Still grateful we had the opportunity,
Right.
But I think the jerseys we wore were the old men's jerseys.
Uh-huh.
So it was really fun. I got to see a lot of things. I got to, do preseason in Italy, which I mean, that's
Mhm.
just like the most special, thing to get to do. But not
Yeah.
speaking the language was something that I did not anticipate having such a difficult time with.
Mhm.
Just not being able to have a proper conversation with somebody, and all your conversations are very surface level. Eventually, it kind of wears on you a bit.
Mhm.
And then, even like in a game when the coach is doing the halftime talk and everything's in Swiss German and you don't speak very good Swiss German, and then
Uh-huh.
he comes up to you and says, score a goal, you have no idea what he's saying. And that's like, it's just tougher than I anticipated.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't stay longer
That's
playing.
great coaching. Score a goal. I mean, he's not wrong. So, that's my tennis coach in college, and it's hilarious to even talk about. I was really not even on the team. He was a basketball coach, right? And we would jokingly say, "Give us some coaching," and he'd say, "You want some coaching? Hit it over the net and in the line." And we'd say, "What? I mean, Eli wasn't wrong." So
No.
how did you then get over to NDSU? Because that was you were there for a while, a few years as an assistant with the Bison.
Yeah, I was actually at St. Cloud before.
Oh
So
yeah.
when
Mhm.
I was done when I was done playing, I actually interviewed for the grad assistant position while I was still in Switzerland
Mhm.
and accepted the job. And I came over. It was would have been the '07 season. So I worked
Mhm.
there um, basically for the semester, and then then that coach got let go. So they're right in the middle of a coaching hire. During that
Mhm.
time, I went and did my D license,
Mhm.
and I met Pete, who was the head coach of NDSU at the time, and he must have enjoyed what I was doing in the coaching license and asked if I'd like to apply for their grad assistant position.
Mhm.
And having not played at D1, but maybe wishing I'd had at moments, I wanted to see what that experience was like and how different it was, and
Mhm.
got that opportunity and came up here the summer of '08. I finished out, the full year at St. Cloud, and then was there from '08 to just early in 2012. So,
Yeah, and I mean, that was somewhat early days of D1 for them, right? I mean, that was like, so like, probably, and I know you also, like, you won the Summit League in 2009, but did you even get to go to the tournament then, or were they still in a probation of like the NCAAs or something like that?
no, I was either the first or second year that they could actually participate in the NCAA tournament. So I
Mhm.
just missed that transitional period. I was right on the edge of it. So
Mhm.
all the time that I was there, they were eligible for postseason and all those kinds of things. But going to the NCAA tournament, winning the Summit League was a really special experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and it's not, I don't think they've won it since then. Or I don't, like it's so it is, those were good times for sure. And
Hmm.
you also, I love, I just saw in one of the bios that you also coach at the Red River Soccer Club when you were there. And I wanted to ask specifically, like you coached U13 boys. And
Hmm.
so all your other coaching, it seems has been, with women or young women. I'm curious just how it was different, and I was also just remembering how I was as a U13 boy. So I'm curious what that experience was like.
Um, that team was like probably one of my most favorite teams to coach
Uh
because
huh.
I had them when I think I had them from 12 and up to 13. So
Uh
we
huh.
started on the small field and went to the bigger fields. And
Mm-hmm.
I just got to create a special relationship with them. And you don't have a lot of females coaching men,
Yeah.
period. And so I don't know. I could still really like play significantly, so I could still get out there and school them a little bit.
Oh,
And
for sure. Yeah, you could
um,
bully them.
yeah, they had some respect for me for sure, and I still have their picture up at my office, and yeah, I really loved that group. I think I just wanted to try coaching boys, and
Yeah.
had the opportunity at Red River, and boys specifically are always competitive, whereas sometimes on the youth girls side, you have to really pull out that competitive spirit, and it was so fun to show up to practice every day knowing that regardless of the drill, they were going to compete like it meant everything to them. So that was really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the energy level of kids that age, like I can remember being that age and playing like 3 games in a day, and just
Yeah.
being like, yeah. And they're like, do you want to play a fourth one, like for the team up? And I'm like, sure. And you're just like, you're like little kids like that age. It's wild. But
Yeah.
um, So how did you get down to Northern Illinois? You went. That's where you went following NDSU, right?
Yeah, so at NDSU, it was Pete Cudrado and John Ross, and Pete went to Wyoming, John Ross went to Northern Illinois, and I decided to go with John and try something a little bit different. So went there and worked for him for 4 years, and it's a little different. It's still the Midwest, but it's a little different than the Fargo
Yeah.
Moorhead community.
Hmm.
So, but
It's
yeah, it was a good
basically this. It
experience.
feels like it's like you might as well be in the South almost, down there or something. No, but that
Yeah.
like. Well, and was there a difference in scale or anything with like athletics? I mean, NDSU now is really. I'm sure they just kind of keep growing in scale of like they're a pretty big athletic department. But at the time, I don't like. Was it a step up? Like Northern Illinois is. I mean, the MAC is a decent conference, and they're certainly like a competitive program.
Yeah, it definitely at the time for sure the MAC was definitely more rated than the Summit League. I think the maybe overall soccer competition again at that time was a little bit better. Athlete maybe was a little more athletic and a little bit more
Mhm.
skillful in general. So yeah, it was a step up. Plus, I knew I was going to be made the associate head coach, which was something I was
Mhm.
aspiring to at the time, and
Mhm.
I had known John for 4 years and was really excited to see him as a first time head coach and work with him. He's a really good friend and mentor of mine. So I was just excited for the opportunity to grow. Plus, soccer in Chicago is huge. And so being able to maybe get into that scene a little bit and was a good opportunity for me.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's, I mean, I'm kind of spotting a trend, Christy, that you go somewhere it's kind of like not like thriving, and there's like usually some notable success. So I saw like NIU made the MAC tournament semis after having a 7-year drought, with that Summit League title. So maybe that's the NSIC one this fall. We're going to see something like that. But yeah, I mean, it must have been fun. I mean, so clearly you were there where you had a good resurgence in the team being a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always different taking over a program, regardless of whether you're the head or assistant coach, and just the changes that you want to make and how you make those changes, when you make those changes, um, obviously can be really instrumental to your success. So yeah, we were fortunate to have some good moments at NIU and NDSU as well. So it's
Awesome.
good. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a brief break to read an ad from our sponsor, Pence Homes. This week's episode is brought to you by Pence Homes. Pence Homes is a real estate team with Keller Williams, and Matt personally has experience working with Nate and Lydia when he sold and bought his home last fall. Nate has been a supporter of the local soccer community, including as an owner of Minnesota Aurora FC. And Matt has also enjoyed working with them as their preferred lenders, Angie Shearer with Luminant Financing. If you have house questions, selling, buying, need a furnace or flooring person, shoot them a message at Pence Homes. And all of that, wouldn't matter if Nate Pence wasn't also a fine customer at the Blackheart Bar when I serve him. So he tips well. He never goes to bare feet, which I can't say of every customer at the bar. But all right. Now I'm gonna ask you, Christy, about Moorhead. So you obviously you were new to the area because you spent time in Fargo. So how did the opportunity with Moorhead come up and that move come to be?
Well, so my then fiance, was my now wife, was working at NDSU. She actually had my old job,
Uh-huh.
and we were getting married in June. But when I got the job, and so when it came open, I just was like, well, it would be awesome to be in the same place and not to be
Mhm.
living far apart. And Moorhead hasn't historically been the most successful, and I really wanted to have that type of challenge and see if I could change the program enough to make it a bit more successful.
Mhm.
Um, it's in a good community, so I feel like that really helps to, um, make it easier to recruit to, as opposed to sometimes in smaller places is a little more challenging. But I thought
Mhm.
it does really say, like, I think Moorhead can be successful because of the community, the school itself.
Mhm.
So I was really excited to kind of come back to the conference as well, just having played in it, and it really
Mhm.
felt full circle for me, I guess.
Yeah, and I was surprised because like I was thinking that I mean the context of it, you've come into a program that struggled a bit in the past and trying to make that step up. And part of it was seeing how good your Crookston teams were, because I was like, whoa, they were in the tournament 2 years in a row. And so yeah, that was a surprise to see. But so in terms of taking that step up, I mean, I've watched the conference just for the last few seasons, and it's it's top heavy. I mean, with Mankato and with Bemidji making their run last year, and then like Augustana and Concordia, you have a lot of teams who kind of like are up at the top clearly, and then it's a deep conference that has a lot of other teams struggling to take a step up. So I wondered if you could speak to that, of just like what the challenges of that, like in the NSIC, the challenge of kind of like moving up a step in terms of like what your program expects.
It's so tough. I mean, some of those programs that you're talking about have just historically been successful and been able to develop, this kind of tradition of being successful in the conference. When I played, there was only 8 teams, and so it was a little bit different, whereas now there's 16. Sometimes I think it really depends on where you're playing. So home field advantage, I think, is really important. If we're playing a team like Bemidji at our house on grass, that's a little bit different than for them to play us on turf.
Right.
So I think that does help maybe the bottom to middle sometimes have a little bit more of an advantage, just because if they're playing at home, they have all those home crowd sort of situations. So that levels the playing field sometimes as well. But it's really tough. I think you really have to win the games that are really in your like competitive bracket, and then you have to try to upset some of the top teams. Really, is the way that you're going to make bigger strides as a program, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely challenging because there's just so much. There's just a huge difference sometimes between the top and the bottom. But everybody always brings so much competitive energy. So, you really don't always know who's going to win on any given day.
Yeah. Well, you can see like the standard, there's some consistency, and it's like, Mankato's going to end up where they end up, but you still do see a random, like you'll see every week, or there's a chance there's a team who had only won one game, but they tied someone great, or and I'm sure honestly a big part of it sometimes, and you can only control this so much, not really at all, is just their budgets might be bigger, like
Yep.
the difference in scholarships can be really big, and so that makes a big difference. If someone if someone's able to have the full, if they have 10 scholarships going instead of say 4, that's, you can't really cross that barrier. So that's just something you have to work within.
Yeah, I know, not at all of the Division Ones that I've been at, but there was at least one university where everybody in the conference had pretty equal scholarship money. So then the playing field is a lot more level. Obviously, you still have like where the program is, the majors, those things. But if everybody's funded the same, then it's really like your ability to recruit and your ability to put the team together, game management, those kinds of things, your game plan. But yeah, when there's such a big difference between money between programs, you have to do the best with what you have, and it kind of looks different for every university. But it adds kind of a layer that you can't really control as a coach, and it's not super worth spending that much time thinking about, because
Right.
You still have to get the best players that you possibly can get, regardless of whatever funding that your program has.
Right. Yeah, well, I was just reading today, it's like Mankato's hockey team is in the Frozen Four. So it's like, I mean, the Frozen Four isn't March Madness, but it's like they get money for that. Like
Yep.
there's no like college football, your teams just don't bring home money like that when you have like a D1 partner too or something. So
For sure. Yep.
how is it? And then, I mean, so talk about recruiting, because obviously the scholarships are one piece of it, but then of course it's also just the work and the relationships you make. So, I mean, I know you pull a lot of the players that you can that are regional, a good job of getting like girls from Fargo and from West or East North Dakota, and getting people from Northwest Minnesota. But then of course you also have to dip into the Twin Cities to try and get some of that talent, because there's a lot of talent in the metro. So just talk about how you prioritize that, or some of the challenges of recruiting in D2. Because I'm curious, did you do recruiting when you were in a D1 assistant, or was that like the head coach did more of it? Talk about that.
No, I was a recruiting coordinator later at NDSU, not right away. And then I was at Northern Illinois. So I've been recruiting for a long time. When I first got the job at Moorhead, I basically stayed away from the Twin Cities because since the record, wasn't great from the program, people weren't interested at all in coming to Moorhead. And it wasn't worth my time because I had such a hard time getting the kind of players that I was interested in right away. So I had to go out of state. I mean, I went to Washington quite a bit. I had a few players from there early on. Just kind of cast a bigger net, if you will, but kind of, I didn't want to waste my time in an area where, you can look at 5 other NSIC schools that were already doing significantly better than I was. But now I feel like I can be more competitive in the Twin Cities, and, Moorhead has so many majors, and we just added nursing back, I think, a year and a half ago. So that's been really helpful because a lot of young women in soccer seem to like nursing. We also have speech language pathology, which has been becoming really important for young women. And then there are some really good local players here for the D2 level, and a lot of them kind of seem to be wanting to stay close to home, just have their parents at games, have that different type of experience, having their family close by. And, I've really been able to grow that part of the program, and I really am proud of that because soccer in Fargo Moorhead hasn't always been the best, but I think it really has gotten better in the time that I've seen it grow from when I was here in 08 to now in 2022. Like, it's gotten a lot better. There's a lot better players coming out of Fargo Moorhead. So that's super exciting. And my local players have done really well for me. So that makes me happy.
Yeah. Is it a difference too with, I know like Fargo is a pretty, it's grow in terms of scale, like it's growing quite a bit and has there's a lot of new like immigrant population, especially compared to like 2006. Like, do you see that in women's soccer? I mean, it's, how much is there a noticeable difference there?
Not that I have seen so far. I hope to see that. I think what it maybe has been is just the growth of the women's game in general over however many years it's been since I've been here. I think, in as the community gets bigger, people are going to be less multi-sport athletes and maybe stick to one sport, which has kind of happened a bit more with soccer. And we do have a lot of players that do actually go to the Twin Cities to train in club soccer. And I could only think of one person that I knew of that did that in my time at NDSU. So I think there's just more people are thinking about soccer and playing it and loving it and wanting to go further with it. So that would be the only reason I can see.
Yeah, that's a lot. That is a drive, man. I mean, I'm from northern Minnesota, and people, like, I think all the good Duluth soccer clubs, like, they play in the Twin Cities League, but that's that's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's not, that's wild. Well, as like someone who got signed for Aurora FC, like the W League team starting, I was at the first tryout and someone had flown from California to try out for this team. And, they aren't paid, and I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. That's a supportive parent right there.
Sure.
So when there's specialization, there's a lot of investment in that. That was going to ask you too. I mean, you've kind of given it to me. I mean, I'm ready to become a Dragon. You got a lot of majors, really nice town. And when you have local kids, you don't have to sell what's nice about Fargo Moorhead, but people from the Twin Cities might have some cliche or like joke about it. So I'm just curious. And also, the movie Fargo, which none of it takes place there, but maybe it makes it look even more rural. But what's your sell when you if you're going to the Twin Cities or you're in another state, to talk to a player about coming to Moorhead?
Now I have to give you all my secrets.
I mean, you could also, I've also heard coaches say, look, I don't sell. I just, it's not about selling. I just tell them, all the good things. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess I really approach the program in college soccer from a really holistic standpoint. So I have an opportunity with these young women to develop them, obviously through the game, but through many other elements as well. So I'm not just investing in them at soccer. We do a lot of leadership work. We do some different trainings. I really want them to be a super well-rounded person when they leave here. And I really try to invest as much as possible in their development as people, not just as soccer players. And so that's really a big part of my recruiting presentation is that's the type of experience you're going to get if you're going to come and play for me. And not everybody wants that. Some people just want their soccer coach to coach them at soccer. But that's not what I'm doing. So I think that's most of the reason that people come to play for me is because they like that idea of being developed, with the game and with other aspects of the game as well.
Well, I think it makes sense, and athletes are, I think, being more outspoken about needing that holistic piece, not just. And I think, it's probably rational too. I mean, you have to spend a lot of time with this coach. They're in charge of your life. It's like, wouldn't you want it to be someone who cares about developing you in all the different ways, and also. One of the main things I think is probably appealing to players is that you have a female staff that's just really rare, too rare in college. We got a nice car, but too rare in soccer. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's cool, and you see a woman getting a chance to coach men. But just in terms of how many of the women's teams are coached by men, I'm sure the majority. So talk about what that means to you and how that affects, like players coming to your school.
I mean, I'm so proud of my staff. I think it's so important to grow young female coaches. I don't think enough people are invested in that. I never had a female coach when I was a player, period, except for that young woman at a camp who obviously left a big impression on me.
Right.
It's just something I'm really passionate about, providing that opportunity. I think it's amazing for young women to see other women in the sport doing it, living it. I'm a mom now, so they can see I can be a mom, I can be a coach. This is something I can do. This is so cliche, but like if you can see it, you can attain it, right? If you see other people like you doing it, you can do it. So, I try to live up to everything that I say I'm about, which is part of why I do have an all-female staff, is so that people know that I am genuine in what I'm trying to do. Not to say I haven't had amazing male role models in my life. I just think that this is such an underrepresented area of soccer that if I can do that and provide that experience for young female coaches, then I am absolutely going to. Some people do say that part of why they came is because they wanted to play for a woman. And I think that's awesome. And we need more women. We need more women in the game, top to bottom, not just at the college game, at the club game. We need to make it more accessible for people. So yeah, I will continue to try to develop young female coaches as much as I can.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot because it's why we try to get, when they actually are female coaches, we try to get them on, which means, a lot of the teams in the NSIC, well, and not even an assistant, it's like 4 dudes, and it's just, I think one of the simplest ways I think Matt, my brother, will describe it, watching Gopher games and things like that, is kind of just watching the game and seeing the sideline demeanor kind of reflects it to me. I don't know. It's kind of the simple way to see it. And of course, it's not the trend across every coach, but it is a thing you kind of notice if you watch a lot of games. And so, it absolutely matters. I think you telling the story, just it's like seeing it one time when you were a kid, you're like, holy crap, I can actually do it. And it wasn't real before that. So that's very cool. And you're right. I mean, there needs to be, the more we see there's so few spots too in like professional game for people to move up because there's only so many teams. So seeing, NWSL expand and then seeing other professional and pre-professional leagues for women is really important because you need everybody to have the spots. It's like there should be, if women want to be the head groundskeeper of a club, if women want, every type of thing that comes with building the game. So that's really cool. And talk about you. I think it's just a piece of a campus-wide thing at Moorhead, but you're the athletics diversity and inclusion designee, which is a great title. I just wanted to ask what that role entails and and just to talk more about that.
Yeah, so it came, I think it was made something that every NCAA school is supposed to have within the last year or two. And I was fortunate enough to get that role. Basically, I'm doing some diversity work within the department. So right now we're doing small group diversity training with the coaches that I developed with some other people to make sure our coaches are, learning and growing and being mindful of the times that we're in with a diversity and inclusion lens. And then I do the leadership for our Dragons Stand Together group, which is student athletes that are kind of interested in social justice and social change. So we're working on a couple different things. We did a lot in 2021. And so we're still working on some programming for the remainder of this year. But, it's something I'm really passionate about. So I'm really, I really like doing that aspect of the work on our campus. I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the, you would say that's one of the positive things that's come about in sports, like in the last few years, is athletes leading, with their values. Like, I work in a bar that has Megan Rapinoe spray painted on it. It's like, it makes a difference when you stand up for things, and so that must be, I would imagine it'd be a very motivating thing to be around the young people, you're around who, it's like when I talk to players and I'm like, wow, I look up to you and you're a 20-year-old, that must be cool to get that positive, even though sometimes the issues are hard, you're getting kind of like inspired by the youth you're working with, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they're so well spoken compared to what I think I was at that time. I'm like, same. You're so smart. I was not that smart when I was your age. I'm just so impressed by their composure and their ideas and the way they want to challenge things and the things they want to accomplish. And they're still being student athletes and they still have jobs sometimes and they still have all these things and they're still trying to push the envelope in these really important ways. So yeah, they're so inspiring. It's so nice too to get to work with athletes other than soccer players sometimes, just because then I'm more invested in going to watch the other sports teams and just hearing about their journeys makes me a better coach of my own team.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's cool. And it just kind of, it just helps you to get to be a mentor and a leader the way you are with your team, but they don't have the same relationship with you of like, well, we're going to be back at practice. And if I don't do this, then I might not play.
There's no dynamic there.
No power.
Yes.
So you're in the middle of spring season right now. You have you have a game this weekend in Jamestown, right?
Yep. We're going to play 45 against Jamestown and 45 against UMary. So
cool. Nice.
We'll
and I love that you start your spring season like with an alumni game, and I'm just curious how serious that is, because it'd be fun. I could imagine like the alumni, if they're talking crap, like girls from 2019 are like, well, we won, we went 6-8, but how much of a real game is that, and how many alumni blow out a knee or something during it?
Well, we do it small-sided because, it's hard to play 11-a-side or bigger side when you're just a little bit older. It starts off really competitive, right? Like just because their bodies maybe don't match where their mind is competitively, they still give it everything they have.
Yeah.
Some of them are still, amazingly talented and skillful, and it's so fun to get to see. It's so fun for the current players to get to see if they've maintained their ability to play, because, when you're done, it's kind of like a hard stop. Like you don't get to
Totally.
sometimes play professional or do anything else. And so
Mhm.
it's really fun for the current players to be like, well, soccer doesn't have to be over just because my eligibility is over. But
Right.
it's always really competitive in the beginning. And then sometimes the current team really, can get a couple goals and then it kind of tapers off a bit. But we actually, do sometimes, not always, but we sometimes mix them up so they play together, because
Yeah.
then it kind of actually encourages relationships with the current team and the alumni.
Mhm.
So that's been really fun to get to see. And I'm actually currently working on an alumni directory, so that players, if they're interested in a certain major, they could maybe reach out to an alumni who's a current
Mhm.
professional in that major. And that's been a really positive
Yeah.
um, thing to start to cultivate, because then
Mhm.
they can really see what their life would be, or go and job shadow, and maybe
Mhm.
they don't want to do that profession after
Yeah.
they actually get some on the job training.
Yeah, yeah, that was so helpful to me in college, that I had a professor who was helpful like that, and it just made it tangible, because you are kind of like, what the hell? I don't know what's real after. It feels like a cliff at the end of college. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you got a new coach this year, an amazing recruit, Carly Kopietz, and I was wondering how you discovered, this talent. But honestly, so obviously I know she was a player, right? Was she a keeper?
Yeah, Carly was a keeper at Minnesota actually for
Yeah,
3. That's my wife. I don't know if you know that, or if
I
you're just
do. No, that's why I'm
okay.
asking.
Yeah, no. So she coached for a long time, and I really needed some help at the beginning of the season, because my goalkeeper coach Sierra is a volunteer,
Mhm.
um, and so Carly was able to come in and help and do a couple things throughout the year. But she's definitely, she's part time. She has another job as well, so
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's fun. It makes for really interesting conversations, and
I was gonna
she's
ask.
still really athletic, annoyingly so. And
Oh,
so,
really?
she hops in at practice, or
Uh,
the girls like see her make a save or catch a certain ball. It's really fun for me to see that, and I think for them to be like, "Wow, look at how good she
yeah.
is." So she'll kill me for saying that, but
I
that's
would, man, if I played a little goalie in growing up, and I think my hips would hurt so bad. Like if I went out and did that, like my butt and legs I would be destroyed. Yeah, I can't imagine. But no, that's great. Of course I know it's your wife, and I was just wondering, yeah, how that affects, how it affects the power dynamic between that. But I'm sure you're thankful to have her, and she's an amazing coach.
Yeah, she certainly is. I am really, really lucky. It's also really fun to be able to share that with your partner.
Yeah.
When I come home from work and I can talk to her about soccer or just about being a collegiate coach, she really obviously understands what that's like. And I mean, that's super rare. So I'm very
Yeah.
fortunate. She has a totally different outlook than I do. So it's refreshing for me to be able to bounce stuff off of her.
Nice. Yeah, I saw. Well, and I saw on y'all's Twitter, like she was posting about the FA Cup. She's into it, man, and like, she's getting your kids in. She's in like a Stoke City jersey. I was like, that's
Oh,
so
yeah.
random. How
Yeah.
did I was like, is she from Stoke? How does someone get a Stoke City jersey in their closet?
No, she worked with Chris Logan, who's at UND for a
Mhm,
while, and
mhm.
Chris's family's from that area, and
Right on.
I don't know how it happened, but we actually went to see a Stoke City game
It is
a
sweet.
very long time ago.
They used to have a bunch
Um,
of American at a time. I think they got American investors, and they, for a time on the men's team, had maybe like 4 Americans. I think so.
yeah,
It was like, yeah, Breck Shea, uh, Jeff Cameron. Yeah, there's a bunch of people, but yeah, that's cool. That's well. I got I call it rapid fire. We'll see how quick it is, but it's some more simple questions for you. Firstly, because I didn't realize you played in Switzerland. What was the name of the team?
it's
With your Swiss German accent.
it's Swiss, or it's FC Muri. Sorry, something popped up on my computer. FC
FC Moorhead.
Muri was the team. Yep.
Do you still have a kit? Do you have a shirt from it?
Yeah, probably in like my keepsake bin.
Yeah, well, that's what I wonder. I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's being a pro soccer player is being a pro soccer player. I'm sure that it didn't always feel glamorous, but it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's your favorite sport to watch besides soccer?
tennis for sure.
Tennis. There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Who's your favorite tennis player? Do you have someone that you specifically like to watch?
Federer. I'm a Federer fan.
Yeah, yeah, right on. Well, you've gotten a lot of years of Federer. He's still doing it.
He's amazing.
It's yeah. I mean, I think back to when I think I watched that crazy Wimbledon with him and Nadal. It was like 15 years ago, or it was like
Yeah.
and yeah, still doing it. What's your favorite soccer team to watch? Do you watch a lot of soccer because you're so in it?
I'm a Chelsea fan. My uncle has been a Chelsea fan, so I kind of got that
Okay.
early on.
Okay.
So I obviously really like watching that. I think secondary, I would have to say the U.S. women's national team.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
it's just fun product to watch. I know all the players.
Hmm.
Invested in it. So
Yeah. It's so fun, and they play with so much joy. You just can't,
mhm.
I mean,
They're
yeah.
so talented, and they also make the same mistakes that my current players make. So that's super refreshing
Uh,
sometimes too, just to be like, "Wow, I shouldn't get so frustrated when my team does this because like these players are doing that too."
who's your favorite on the women's national team?
I've always been a Julie Johnson fan.
Yeah.
Ertz, is it Ertz now? I forget
Yeah.
which one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
just so physical and she just works hard and
Hmm.
puts her body on the line. I really love that about her.
Yeah, she just bosses. Like she just,
Yeah.
yeah, she's intimidating. I mean, it's like, yeah, you just feel like she's gonna run through you for sure.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I think I saw. She just announced she's having a baby. I think maybe with
She
her.
did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Just recently.
Yeah. No, I'm yeah. They're also. I mean, it's because they're fun people to root for too. So it's like it's easy to when they lead on things. Like I have a Roosevelt tattoo on my leg that she signed my leg and I got tattooed. So yeah, they're great.
That's neat.
I know. And well, so I promised to add to it, but it's like I have to deep Google on someone to approve them. Like I went to page 15 on Roosevelt to make sure it was a good. Like I'd get like Crystal Dunn, Sam Hewitt, yeah, someone like that. So we'll see if Rapino comes to the bar again. Yeah, that's okay. So gotta ask you got your little kids. You were home with them, I'm sure, a lot at times during COVID. What's the best kid content like you've had to watch that you've been able to bear the most? Because I know it gets a little, it's like they'll grind you down.
So recently I had the team over for dinner
Uh-huh.
and Otto had these little like cups and like little tiny cups, like really, really tiny ones. And he kept carrying them around and being like, these cups are for the team. These cups are for the team. And I'm just like, they can't drink anything out of those. It's like the smallest cup I've ever seen. But he was just like so excited and carrying them around all day. And then they get there and he's like pretty shy at the beginning. Like,
Of course.
I'm like, you've been looking forward to this all day. And now you like, don't even want to talk to them. But
That
he
must
wants
be a blast for him. I can remember my dad was a women's basketball coach when we were growing up, when we were really little. And so I can remember being at like his junior high girls practices and we were like 5 and I thought they were huge. I'm like, man, is she like 6'3"? No, it's just, yeah. But I'm
yeah.
sure it must be a blast for your kids to get to see.
Yeah. He always asks me, what's the team doing? Or he just recently started blowing a whistle. And so he'll blow the whistle and be like,
Uh,
okay, is the team coming now? And I'm like, no, honey, they can't hear you.
I love that. Look, he's gonna skip playing. He's gonna get into coaching right away.
No, he needs to play.
Does he go to like little tot soccer yet? 3 and 4 is kind of when that starts.
Yeah, we did a little bit last summer, so hopefully we'll do some more this summer. But he really liked the ladders, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was fun. So
Yeah, that's great. We talked about like recruiting to Fargo Moorhead. What's underrated about it? Like if you're when you're standing up for it, what's something that's underrated?
about Fargo Moorhead
Hmm.
or the school?
No, the like living in like in the town. Like yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is a tough question. Um, it's underrated. I don't know if I have
It's
an
just
answer for that.
I think it's bigger in general. It's just like a bigger community. There's more going on than people think. I'm sure in Fargo and more, but this might get your brain ticking on it, because this is what, like, we highlight, the name, image, and likeness rules, which is not a big deal in D2 soccer, but like we like to see players getting those deals, and we actually pay the players we have on just because we can and we think we should. So if you could get an NIL style deal with like a bar or restaurant where it's like you promote them, you get to go there for free, you get, which one would it be?
In Fargo Moorhead?
Yeah, like which one would you be like, yes, because now I'll just go there every week. Spot.
It would probably be Rustica in Moorhead. They have the best poutine, which is a Canadian specialty.
Nice. Yeah.
It's delicious. The gravy's really good, and they put good cheese on it. The fries are good, so I would have to go with that.
Canadian approved poutine. There we go.
Yep.
That speaking of Canadian, who has the worst? Like when they're at their worst, which accent is worse, Minnesotan or Canadian? You're kind of from the city in Canada, but I'm sure they had accents in Ottawa too.
Oh, for sure, Minnesotan. I love a Canadian accent. I think it's great. It's nostalgic for me, whereas it isn't in Minnesota. I just, the way some of my players say bagel and bag is funny.
You must be you've had a lot of time though in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You must have a bit of a mix, I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. There's still definitely words that I say. But I actually was born in England, so I have a little bit more some British tendencies with like my word choices than maybe Canadian. But
you're higher than all of us in stature and accents. Then, yeah, no, I think I agree that at its worst, like I don't think Canadian accents they are funny and they're thick like Minnesota ones, but I think Minnesotan at its worst is like when someone says a really bad O or like a really deep one, it hits you like physically. I'm like, oh God, that was tough. That was a bad accent. What's your favorite goal you ever scored, Christie?
I don't know. Okay, I do know. So we went to Winona. I forget which year it was because it's been a long time, but it was in the playoffs and we scored first, I believe, and I scored the goal. So we were up 1-0 against Winona. And at the time that I played, Winona was like, I mean, top of the conference every year. You just didn't want to play them because they won every single year. And just like scoring first. We ended up losing the game, but we gave it a really good effort, but just to be able to score first was really against such like a powerhouse was a special moment for me.
Nice. Made you feel like you belonged. You're like, no, we're at the top with you.
Yeah. Like we had a chance too to upset them.
Right. Well, the last two, that's what I was going to ask you. Is this, the front end of it is what's the team you wanted to beat most as a player when you played at Crookston?
100% Winona because of that. Yeah.
All right. Well, shout to Winona. Maybe they'll come back. But I don't think they aren't. They need a resurgence. And then what now? I don't know who you'll say to this. Who's the team you want to beat most now? As the
coach? I don't know if I can say that because then they'll use it in the locker room against me.
Oh, they will. I guess you can't give anyone. You can't give anyone the bulletin board material.
No, I can't do that.
Well, you could say someone like maybe you get a preseason game to upset NDSU. That'd be great. Beat the local D1 team.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That's great. I had the 5 of the NDSU girls on when they were in England because I was like, that's cool. We got to talk to you about that. And I said, who would you want to beat most? And before I answered the question, they were all like, South Dakota State. South Dakota. They're like, we hate them. I was like, okay, yeah. I would have guessed that too, but yeah.
My team would have some different answers because sometimes it's about like maybe they have a player on their team that they want to beat or their friends sometimes. Right. I do find it really fun to coach against some of my closer, colleagues in the conference is really fun just to coach against them. I think is fun, but doesn't have anything to do with their team that they're coaching.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like Yeah, I'm sure plenty of people would. Well, and I mean, people would say Mankato, people would say Bemidji after their run last year. I mean, they're gonna have the target because yeah, that was fun to watch. But cool. Well, thank you so much for joining, Christy. This was awesome to get to talk about your whole journey. I didn't dive even deep enough. I didn't even find you're playing in Switzerland. So congrats on that. But
Thanks. Well,
thanks for
thanks for
joining me.
having me. It's awesome that you're highlighting the women's game. I'm grateful, and I think it's great. Keep doing it. And if you ever want to talk to any of our dragons, they'd be more than happy to be on, I'm sure.
We will this fall for sure. And yeah, it's fun because I haven't, I follow soccer basically like it's my full-time job, but I've only covered the NSIC for a couple of years, and so it's cool to see it over time because I have more familiarity and it helps with the coverage, and it's great fun. Yeah, this fall I'm sure I'll have Rachel Norton back, who is a Bemidji State player, and it's really fun to have her on. She's a former player and can kind of be honest and can give some insight, or she'll tell us little stories about playing Mankato and then making noise in the locker room or something like that. But
Sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Christy. We'll follow your team, and good luck with the rest of the spring season. You're in Jamestown, and then you play Crookston and Northern, right?
Yeah.
In April.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.